Okay, good morning and welcome to Just Daf It. Daf Yevamos here. We're learning the Yevamos, Daf Kuf Kaf Aleph 121, the penultimate Daf of Maseches Yevamos. I love to say the word penultimate. Probably a word most people don't know. It means the second to the last thing in any counting or whatever. We are talking today about more identifying marks about when a woman can remarry. If a husband goes in certain situations, we assume he's submerged in water, gets thrown into a fiery furnace, things like that. We assume the husband died, even though we have no conclusive proof that he actually died. These halachos, as opposed to the rest of the Masech, these halachos are actually applicable a lot nowadays. Not a lot, but when they had the thing in Surfside last year, the building collapsed. These halachas are pertinent, right? There was no identifying marks. Some people actually died. We assume they died. You need maybe circumstantial evidence. We'll talk more on Yun Ben Sion today, clarifying more about Ruva the Isakaman, Ruva the Leisakaman. We have a machlokas in our Mishnah on Daf Kuf Chaf. We're going to discuss today, actually on Kuf Chav Aleph here, about Mayim She'en Lahem Sof and Mayim She'esh Lahem Sof. Reb Meir actually says both of them. The woman is Asura. The Rabbanan is Mayim She'esh Lahem Sof. So the woman is Muteres. We're going to explain that machlokas, my chiddush, to explain it based on the machlokas we talked about before. We're in Rameir and the Rabbanim, Ruba the Isakman, Ruba the Leisakaman. If you don't want to miss it, let's start from the top of Kuf Kaf Aleph, Aleph, the fourth line. Yehuda Omer Lo Kol, or Yehuda says in the Mishnah that not all the places or all the days are Shaveh. He's going on what the Rabbanan said. The Rabbanan said that basically you only have until 3 days after the person died to identify the person based on his face, based on his body, because after 3 days the person changes. Rabbi Yehuda says not everything is equal. Rabbi Yehuda and Baba Lakula Palag or Lachomer Palag. Yehuda is coming Lakula to say maybe even after 3 days we can rely on the fact that it looks like the guy, or it's maybe Lachomra even less than 3 days. Tashma Daho Gabra, the top of a karmi, he drowned in a karmi. It's either a place or a bunch of vineyards where there was water. It was quicksand over there. Asku abehedya lebasar klasa yomid. The people there, they uncovered his body. They took him out of the water, the quicksand. After 3 days, Ansaba, and they allowed his wife to remarry. They identified him as the guy. Rav Dimi Minaharda, Ansaba Rav Dimi Minaharda Lebedisel. Rav Dimi allowed him to remarry. So who got the Adpa Bediglas? He drowned in the Tigris River. Tigris is in Iraq, other countries over there in the Persian Gulf. They brought him on a certain bridge. They identified him. Rav identified him as the husband. He identified him in that place after 5 days, after he actually drowned. If they say that Yehuda and Baba is more makel, that you can identify someone even after 5 days, if you say he's machmir, so the most lenient sheet is 3 days. The rest is shiny maya the samsi. You can even say he's machmir. Here, water is different than other deaths because water contracts the body. It causes the body to remain in its current state even for longer. The Gemara says before that actually water is worse for a wound, and that it doesn't allow for cauterization. That's where you have a wound. Here you died. You didn't have a wound. Mitzmat summit. You're drowned in water. The body contracts. It decreases in size, and the features of the person remain intact. The only time when you took him out of the water, you saw him right away, or you saw him within an hour. If you let him stay out of the water, his body will swell and he's no longer recognizable. Mish says, Nafal Lamayim Ben Sheish himself, Ben She'en himself, Ishta Asura. This follows the opinion of a mayor. If a person drowns in water, whether they have an end to the water, meaning it's discernible the boundaries of the lake or the ocean where this person drowned, or it's Mayim She'en himself, right? Water that you don't see the end of, a huge ocean, right? The Pacific Ocean. Any ocean practically, you're not going to see the end of the boundaries. You're not going to see land. The wife is asura because we're choshesh. that really the husband swam somewhere and got it on some island. And he's still alive. Amar Meir Ma'isa be'echad shenafal lebora gadol. He fell into a big water pit or water cistern. V'alo la'achar shloshi yomim. After 3 days, somehow submerged in water, he was able to get out. Amar Yosi Ma'isa b'suma shiar litbol mara. It was a blind person. He went to do tefillah in a cave. Now caves are filled with water, a lot of them. I remember that story from a number of years ago in India, I think. A bunch of school kids, they went into the cave with a lot of water, and there was elaborate escape rescue after like a week or 2 weeks. V'yard Moshko Acharov, his tour guide went after him. V'shal Kadesh Dezi Nafsham. They spent the amount of time practically submerged underwater, the amount of time that people would normally die. They see us Nashos saying it, and they relied on that to marry off their wives. There was an incident in Asia, I guess Asia. They lowered him into the water, but also biyadam el raglo. They could only get retrieved from the water his foot. If there was a shark bite, if his leg was bitten off above the knee, then we assume he's dead. Below the knee, we don't assume he's dead. It doesn't normally kill a person. The Gemara says, Meir is machmer. He's the shita of the Mishnah. We don't pass like that. The Chum say no. If there's discernible ends to the water, you can see the land boundaries. We'll see on all four sides. So then his wife is mutter, because you can see whether the man came up on land. The fact that you don't see him come up on land, right, shows that he's drowned. Shein lehem sof, where you don't see the end, he could have swam to a place where you don't see and come on land there, and therefore his wife is asur. What is classified as ma'am sheish lehem sof? You stand at the bank of the water, the river, the lake, the ocean, the bay, the gulf, the bayit, and you see 4 land masses around you. Ahu gavra the taba ba'agma, the samki. He drowned in a certain marsh. Anzabar of Shila we saw, Rav Shila allowed him to remarry. Amalei Rav Shmuel, not Tanish Masay. Let's put this guy in Chayrim, this rabbi in Chayrim, gave the wrong psak over here. This is Mayim Sheish himself. It was just a marsh. You could see land all around it. Amalei Nishlach Le Bereisha. Shmuel said, before we put him in excommunication, let's just ask him what his psak was, what it was based on. Shalchu Le Mayim Shein himself, Isho Mayim Shein himself, Isha Asura or Moteres. Shalchu Ishta Asura. Doesn't have, this was not a Mayim Sheish Lahem. So apparently you couldn't see the 4 land boundaries. So they asked him, what's the halacha? Mayim Sheish Lahem, if the woman is mutter or asr? Shalach Lu Isha Asr, it's asr. Agma the Samki Mayim Sheish Lahem, Mayim Sheish Lahem. This place where this person drowned, was it Ein Lahem or Yish Lahem? Shalach Lu Mayim Sheish Lahem. Really, you couldn't see land mass around from 4 directions in normal person's vision. Omar my time of Hachi, why did you allow her to remarry? Mita Taina, say admit I made a mistake. Anna Sabra came in the Kabu of Kaimi. This is a marsh, the waters generally don't move so much. Kamayim Sheish Lahem Sofdami. It's like waters that that he's not gonna go so far, he's not gonna drift so far, so therefore the fact that he didn't see him come out, so therefore he can marry. Below he came on the Ika, I was wrong. Why? He came on the Gali, Amor Gali Ashbalu. Since there are some waves, not many waves, it's very possible that the waves took him to a place where you can't see, and he emerged from the water, and we don't know that he's alive. Maybe he's alive. Kari Shmuel allowed the Rav, when Shmuel found out about that this person admitted that he made a mistake, he said about Rav, Lo Yuno Tzaddik Kolav, and he's a tzaddik, nothing bad is going to happen to him, because he wanted to put the person in excommunication, and he didn't deserve excommunication, he made a mistake. Kari Rav allowed the Shmuel, V'Shua Barov Yoetz. Rav was also, complimentary of Shmuel. Shua Barov Yoetz, right? You find Yeshua by seeking advice, talking to people, communicating with people. He'll often lead you from making mistakes. Tanya Amar Rabbi Ma'aseh b'shnei bnei Adam Machmurin b'Yarden. There were 2 people. They were in the Jordan River and they were making fish traps. One of them went into, a certain furrow in the water where fish were. He wanted to catch some fish. So Shakakama, the son said, they couldn't get out. He was in water, a furrow in the water, trying to catch fish, and he couldn't get out. The person waited there. How long it takes a person to drown in water? I don't know. 20 minutes. A person submerged in water. I don't know the exact statistics, but how long you're gonna die? Ubava Hodia. I once read somewhere that someone could be submerged. These professional divers can stay underwater for like 21 minutes. If you're not a professional diver, probably less. But I don't know, half an hour. I don't know. You assume the person died. So he told his household, his wife, that she got remarried. The next day, the sun shone. The guy was still alive. He found out how to get out of the furrow. Baba Matzah Hesped Gadol was on base. He came home. He found they're eulogizing him. If they have a sof, right? His woman is muterish. Elam so ishta asura. His wife is usher, and I guess this is called Elam himself because he didn't see a way to get out. Also, by water where you can't see the edges of the ground of the land, you can see land masses from four sides. We should also be choshesh that he's stuck in a furrow and he'll come out tomorrow. It's not common to find a mechila shel dagim, a furrow of dagim in a small quantity of water. His wife is also and immediately be in the alma of Rabbanan, a big rabbinical student. Lo, if he would come up to the water, right, in some faraway land, we would have heard about it, right? It's a famous guy, he got rescued, he came ashore. He's a regular stam guy, regular layman, no one cares about him. No, it doesn't make a difference, right? You can't. His wife is asura, but the Gemara does add another fact that even Mayim She'en himself, the Eved, the wife would be muteris. Tanya Amar Gamliel Pam Achas Hayisim, and if she remarried, we don't force her to get out of her second marriage unless the original husband comes alive. Amar Gamliel Pam Achas Hayisim Ahalap Sfina. I was going on a boat. Risi Sfina Akshin Ishpur Hayisim Mitztar Al Tamid Chacham Sheba. I saw a certain ship, that broke apart. Umanu, and there was someone special there. Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was on the boat. Shaliti b'Yavasha ba v'Yasha v'Dam l'fanei ba'alacha. When I got to shore on my good boat, somehow Rabbi Akiva made it to shore, and he was asking me halachic shilas. Amarti lo b'ni mi'alecha. How did you survive? I'm only daf shall sing this dominantly. A board of the piece of wood from the ship came to me. Chol gavagal shabal alayinesi lo roshi. Any wave that came on my head, I ducked underneath it. I took the wave, and I breathed after that. We learn from this that Rishonim come to a person, you don't fight them. You bend your head towards them, you let them pass, and eventually the Rishos will pass, and you'll be washed ashore. Some people, I heard a friend quote this Gemara for the support of Daf Yomi. I had to see him for Daf Yomi, the most recent one. He said, maybe it was two siyums ago. He said, this Gemara says, Daf shel smina. Daf means a board of the ship, a piece of wood. He said it's an allusion to the Daf Yomi. Daf Yomi, it's like waves that hit you. Hold on to the Daf. They'll hit you with waves. Yevamos is a pretty big wave, but, bend your head down. Take the blow. Keep on going. Just Daf it. And you'll survive. You'll go on to the next Masechta. Amar Yekiva. Yekiva had a similar experience. I was on a boat, an intact boat. I saw a boat that was shipwrecked. I was upset about Talmud Chacham that probably died. Rabbi Meir. I thought Rabbi Meir died. When I made it to Kaputkia, they identified this as a place in Turkey, Kapodashia. Meir somehow made it also ashore. How'd you get washed ashore? I'm only gal tardini l'chaveiro. One wave passed me to its fellow wave. Chaveiro, until the waves spat me out onto the dry land. How great are the words of Chamish? His wife is Asur, because Mayim She'en Lahem Sof. So therefore his wife is Asura, because we see these cases where Mayim She'en Lahem Sof and the people survived. Let's say a man fell into a pit of lions. You can't testify that he died. We don't assume the lions attacked him. He fell into a pit full of snakes and scorpions. We could assume, like Yosef, he died. We don't testify that he died. Chayshinan Shema, the top of Kuf Chaf Aleph from a base, Chaver, who is a snake charmer, he's able to charm the snakes, and therefore he'll avoid them from biting him. Tanakama Agav Itza Maskila, says there he's also so crowded with snakes and scorpions, it's not going to help him. Somehow though, Yosef survived. Again, another story, that a halacha that goes against the story in Bereshis. Now with you fall into a fiery furnace like Avram Avinu. He didn't love. Halacha is you can testify he died. Abram obviously survived, but still, you see that you're allowed to marry her with not 100% proof. Liora Malaya Yayin V'Shemen. Let's say it falls into a vat of wine or oil, right? They're heating up the wine or the oil to purify it. Midin alav, it's very hot. Midin alav mishum, it's like falling in a fiery furnace. Midin alav, you're allowed to testify you died because of the heat. Mishum rach amru shel shemen midin alav neishu mavir. Oil, right? We know from olive oil it burns very intensely. It burns very well. It's very hot. Shel yayin midin alav neishu mechabe. Wine actually cools it off, so therefore it's not so hot. Amru lo tchilas mechabe v'sofa mavir. In the beginning, it cools it off, and then at the end, when you put more wine in, it cools the fire a little bit, but then the fire takes over and heats up the wine very much, and therefore the person probably died. Amar Meir Meir brought a proof. Someone fell into a big bore. Right? Meir says survived. You can't bring a proof in this case. This is a nace. A nace happened. Exceptions happen to every rule, but in general, you're allowed to let the woman remarry if it's mayim sheish himself. My ma'aser nisim. What is the nace? Ilam with the law ishti. Survived by not eating and drinking. Someone lie about to it says, right, this thing happened. He was there for 3 days. We know Esther told people not to eat for 3 days, so you can see you can survive without food and water for 3 days. The fact was he died because he couldn't sleep. Rabbi Yochanan says we assume person like shua he's not going to sleep, right, for 3 days. He doesn't even have to attempt it. You give him malchus. It's a shua shop. It's impossible. Now, of course, I've seen in record books people have stayed up for much longer than 3 days, maybe like 70 days. But that's very uncommon. That's ma'aser nisim. That's unusual. So therefore, when you give malchus even on a chazakah. So we assume he's not going to last for 3 days. It's a shua shop. Yashan altar, you're allowed to sleep right away because the shua is null and void. Rabbi Meir, my time, Rabbi Meir, what's his reason? Amar Rav Kahana, keeping on, Gav keeping, but there were arches in there. It's a big well of water, a suppository of water, a reservoir of water. So there were arches there to keep it in place. He slept on them. Rabbanan Shisha Abu, I would say no, it was marble over there. He would have slid off. He wouldn't be able to rest there. Meir, Ef Shard Lamasra Fanai Porta. He would have held on. Meir says, and I'll sleep a little bit, so therefore it's not a nace. There's an incident with the daughter of Nechun Yechover Shichin. He was a prominent person that used to dig wells for the people that were older the regel should have water on their way to Yerushalayim. Shenafel Lebora Gadol. His daughter fell into a big pit, apparently with water. They were trying to daven for her. Rav Chanina ben Dosa was known in Misachas Brachos as a daven for people. Shari Shalom Alayhem Shalom. They asked him the first hour after your davening. He said, "There's peace. We're not sure." Shni Amar Alayhem Shalom. He says, "Peace." Shli Amar Alayhem Alsa. After 3 hours of davening, she was able to get out of the pit. Amar Alayhem Biti Melechas. They asked her, "How'd you get out?" Amar Lo Zachar Sharachel Nizdaminli. There was a pack of sheep that came by Zakim on Higo, and there was an old person who was leading it. Who was this roeh, this shepherd? And he saved her. Amar lo naviata. He said, "How did you know that she got out?" Amar lahem lo navi anochi lo bein navi anochi. I'm not a prophet. I'm not the son of a prophet. Al davar shasadik mzazik bo yichash bo zaro. I said, "This is a tzaddik." Nechun chover shichin. He did a great chesed to other people to dig well so they should have water all over the road. How should she die by drowning in a well? Even though his daughter didn't die in the pit, his son died of thirst. He was going through, a desert, he didn't have water. Even though people are very close to Hashem, people directly close to Hashem, the closest to Hashem, Hashem deals the most strictly with them. The people closest to Hashem, even a sin the size of a hair's breadth, He'll punish them. Kadosh Baruch Hu is amongst His holy ones, but He's awesome in front of the people that surround Him. He's awesome in the fact people fear Him, that He can kill them or punish them so easily. Mishnah says, "Afilu shamam min anashim, omros mesish ploni dayo." Even if you heard from the women, a man hears women saying, right, he, not one of the women are testifying, he hears from women that this person died, dayo, that's good enough edus. Even you hear children, omrim, hare anu holchen lispo likvor asish ploni, we're going to eulogize and to bury such a person. Whether he's mechaven for edus or not, it's still, we accept the testimony and should let her remarry. If the Yisrael heard from these people, he's testifying. So even if he's meskaven the edus, we believe. If we know he's trying to come and say testimony, he knows that he's giving testimony and allowing this woman to remarry, so we don't believe him. We're concerned goyim lie. Why do we believe the children? They're saying they're going to go bury this person. Maybe they're not going to go. Not that we're going to go. We have come from the funeral and the eulogizing of this person. If their children, maybe a grasshopper died, and this was a famous person, they gave him the name of the grasshopper, and they're talking about a grasshopper that died, not a person. They also add all the big rabbis, they're big eulogizers there. So you see that it was actually on a grasshopper, because Rabbanim and eulogizers don't come to the funerals of grasshoppers. We don't believe a guy if he knows he's coming to matir the woman to remarry. When it's coming the hayit, he's just coming. They say you're going to give testimony. He knows he's giving testimony. He does so edos. We believe him. How do you know the difference? He says the guy comes in and says this person died. Let his wife remarry. He's stating explicitly he wants the woman to remarry. We don't believe him. If he just comes and says, I'm giving testimony, this person died, we believe him. As long as he's coming to testify, he's not including in his testimony he wants to matir her, we believe him. Wasn't an incident with the great Rabbi Oshia He allowed the woman to remarry with 85 other elder people. Right? He was protesting. He was going against 85 elders were protesting, and he said to them, "We do believe a guy, even if he's Chacham don't agree with him, and these elders represented the Chacham. They didn't agree with him. According to the Chacham, who argue on Rabbi Yoshaya, right? Though Chachamim says he was miskaven, his edus is not edus. Heichi mishkachasla, right? It implies that if he's not miskaven, right? So we believe him. Heichi mishkachasla, right? So according to the other opinion, right? It depends. Miskaven a hatir, we don't believe. Miskaven the edus is good. So according to the one who says miskaven the hayid, it just says he died. We don't believe him. The one we do believe him. If he's just talking nonchalantly, he's not coming to Hayid, he's just telling people, okay, what's some examples? He's going to Chivai's house. He actually saw this person Chivai die, and he's telling him, he wasn't trying to testify, he's just telling him, I saw your husband die. Rabbi Yosef allowed his wife to remarry. Woe was to the swift horseman. He was, I don't know, he's an Uber driver. Rabbi Yosef, he was just mentioning, he was a great Uber driver. We're going to miss him a lot. Rabbi Yosef allowed his wife to remarry. Some say it was Rabbi Yosef, some say it was Rava, allowed his wife to remarry. Tava Chasa, who's in the house of Chasa? You should know Chasa, who was obviously the man, he died. Amram Nachman Elkim, Achlu Kirei LaChasa. Nachman, upon hearing this, he said, obviously they were telling him that he drowned. The fish ate him, the sharks ate him. The Burei Rav Nachman, Azal Biso, the Chasa of Insaba. She didn't get a psak from him. She heard Rav Nachman stating that her husband died, so she went and remarried. They didn't tell her to get divorced. Right? Even though this was a case of Mayim She'en himself, it was possible her husband was still alive. The fact that we don't force her to get divorced shows that even though we don't rely on the Chachila, but the Eved, we let her stay remarried. Some say what happened was Rav Nachman actually permitted his wife to marry. Chasa was a big person. He wasn't a big Talmud Chacham, but he was an important person. He was a rich man, a Gvir. And Misa, the Sali, Kali, Islay, Lamil said people are going to come after him for his money. So obviously, no one mentioned, the newspapers didn't mention that he survived, so therefore he obviously died. Below, Yeloshna got Rab, Loshna Lav got Rab. It doesn't matter whether you're an important person, not an important person. We only allow you to get to remain married to the second husband. We don't allow you to give you a permit to get remarried. And talk more about the specifics about this halacha. Ma'im sheish lahem sof, she's muter, she'en lahem sof aser. And Rameir argues and says in both cases, she's asura. We're going to explain the machlokas, Ben Sion, coming up next.